Hello streamers and welcome to another Toad Probe. And I'm joined Swampside obviously by the Beast. He's in the Hungry Beast, Dan Ellick, and the author of this fantastic new book concerning climate change and especially the tricky problem of denial. Climate change denial, a very big issue in the world at large, scientific community, general community, and we welcome to the Toad Probe Dr. Haydn Washington, who wrote with Johnny Cook this tome. Haydn, why'd you bother to write this book?
Well, wanted to understand why the science is getting more and more certain. Number of people believing it is going the other way. We dropped 29% in Australia over the last 3 or 4 years.
In other words, science is becoming more settled about the issue of, climate change affecting us all and man-made climate change, and yet at the same time, the numbers who disbelieve it, Beast, are going up.
Absolutely. Well, HG, I just want to know, I can see this book in front of me, but I actually believe it exists. It's right there, but I don't, look, it's just, what is a book anyway? For me, it's just text on paper from a tree. For me, that's just a waste of time.
Now, Haydn, look, it's a hell of a volume. Give us an idea of some of the chapter headings that you cover here.
Well, for a start, we look at what is science. Deniers like to say, well, look, the science is never settled. And that's true, but you build up a body of evidence of many different lines of research. So we look at what science is. So you have to look at uncertainty and probability. A lot of people think things are black and white in science, but in fact, it's all about probability. Then we go on to summarise the climate science, but then we look at, do we let denial prosper within our society? Right. And what can we do to roll back denial?
You mean you can make money out of denying?
I don't know whether it's so people,
we don't encourage people necessarily to deny, but if there's a quid to be made, Dan and I want to be in on it.
Well, there is a denial industry, and you're talking about Exxon putting $20 million a year into denial industry, Koch Industries, which, as you know from things you've done in the past, putting money into denial. So there is a denial industry. I'm sure Exxon probably thinks it's the best $20 million they ever spent because they've managed to hold back action on climate change for over 20 years.
After all, oil is a natural substance, HG. It's naturally found in the natural environment. Yeah.
And it's not just about climate change. You look at the history. There was a denial of the acid rain, denial of the hole in the ozone layer, denial that there'd be a problem with nuclear winter, denial that tobacco is going to give you a problem.
You've gone back, say, 50 years there.
What we're really talking about is the aspect of fear that's involved in denial and the strong link between conservative organisations such as think tanks and denial. For instance, in America, there's been about 141 books published on denial over the last 30 years. 130 of them were published by right-wing think tanks. So if you look at well-educated people and Republicans and Democrats, 75% of the Democrats believe in human-caused climate change. Only 19% in the Republicans. William Rees, who actually started off the idea of the ecological footprint, sort of argues the reason we do stupid things is we have a reptilian brainstem in our brains, the amygdala, and a neocortex that evolved later on. And when we're under stress, the amygdala overrides the reasoning functions in our brain where we do stupid things. But also, and there's actually been a study quite recently of students in England, in London, and they asked who's conservative, who's small L liberal. They did MRIs of their brains. They didn't expect to see any difference, but in fact they found in the conservative students the amygdala, which deals with fear, was more highly developed. In the smaller liberals, part of the neocortex dealing with solving problems was better developed. So there is some sort of evidence that something's going on here in terms of fear being a key issue. And of course, we don't work well with fear. If we're afraid of something, we freeze up and we try and think of something else, which is what denial is.
Which is why I like watching the Amygdala Report on Fox News. I love watching that show.
They should give it more time, but that does raise an interesting question, Fox News, is the media hasn't been kind to any of this. I don't mean to give you a free kick here, but you struggle with the media, don't you?
Well, other than steaming toad, it's a number of things involved with the media. One, they love controversy.
Yes.
So, 2, they're not very good at actually getting science across to people. 3, they're also largely owned by conservative interests, many of which don't want to believe in climate change. Yes. But the fact is you have what academics call balances bias. So you might have one person here who's representing the IPC, 2,000 or 3,000 scientists all around the world have written the most detailed scientific study that's ever been done, and you'll have someone here from a right-wing think tank, and they'll be seen as being equal weight. So if you're watching, you think, well, gee, scientists are split 50-50 on this, rather than 97.5% of practicing climate scientists are saying the same thing in every academy of science in the world. But I'd bet you the majority of the Australian population wouldn't know that.
Right. Now, this book captures a snapshot a little while ago. Has the denial industry risen, or the world of deniers risen to be a more dominant force?
I mean, there is a trend. I mean, while there's a trend in society to deny things, there's also thankfully a trend to do something about it. It gets to a certain point where the absurdity becomes more than we can handle, or those of us who are at least like to dabble in rationality at times. So what often happens before people move past denial is that denial gets to a frenzied level, which is where we are now, and hopefully we will get to the point where suddenly enough people will go, well, hold on. We're concerned about the future. We're concerned about our descendants. We have to do something about a really major problem. And so, I mean, the reason we wrote this book is basically because climate change can be solved. It's not going to be easy. Bill McKibben suggested it might be the hardest thing humanity has ever done. Can be solved, but we're not going to solve it unless we actually acknowledge we have a problem.
And I think we're going to help solve it by reading this book. I'm going to start today.
Well, excellent, Beast. And thanks, Haydn, for coming in and joining us
very
again
much.
when the toad goes probing again on the Toad Probe.